So next up, I'd like to introduce Jeff Bangsberg and have Jeff talk a little bit about what's happening in the personal care assistance arena. And Jeff's many of you guys know Jeff. Jeff sat me down my first week and said, "So you want to get involved in disability advocacy, huh?" And he and I had a great conversation. He's been a mentor for me for many years. And so I'm really pleased to see him. And go ahead and take it away, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. You have a great name, by the way. I like that. And thank you for the kind introduction. And it's good to see you all again. I know many of you from, oh my goodness, so many years far back. And thank you for all of your advocacy and the work you do. You guys make a tremendous impact, and I'm still incredibly impressed with how you guys were able to get that MA income standard into law 4 years ago, and it's still there. So hopefully you can get to 100% of poverty with that next July, I think it is, or a year from now. So I'm rooting for you guys. That's something that has been a very difficult. It's like pushing a 10,000 pound boulder up a hill. So congrats on you for making that happen, you guys. The reason why I'm here today is to talk about the personal care assistant program and a little thing that kind of happened with the personal care program for people with disabilities that do need PCA services. This specifically relates to those individuals who need assistance, as you are well aware of, with help with everything from assistance in dressing to transferring to getting around the house and to help you with your activities of daily living. What is also in that bill, or what's also in that service category, is what we call instrumental activities of daily living. That includes things like buying groceries and other light housekeeping tasks. What it used to allow for was transportation, and somehow down the road about 4 or 5 years ago, transportation was taken out of IADL, and we're trying to put it back. And what a lot of personal care assistants are unknowingly doing is, well, people are currently allowed to drive their clients in their vehicles, meeting specific criteria. But what they're doing is they're doing something that they're technically supposed to do while they're not technically clocked in. In other words, it's not a covered service anymore under the personal care program. And what many PCAs unknowingly and many clients unknowingly do is allow their PCAs to drive them while they're on duty to go to the grocery store, to go to a medical appointment, to go to work, or anywhere else that they may need to go, because A, they may not be able to drive themselves, or B, they may not have that transportation available, and they may not be able to use Metro Mobility, or like in Lisa's case, they live out in the middle of the country and they can't get any other kind of transportation allowed or available to them. So they rely on their personal care assistant to help them get from point A to point B. And so with the help of Ted Stamp, who's been a very good advocate out in southwestern Minnesota and Marshall, has been bringing this issue forward through the State Council on Disability, and also brought it forward to the Minnesota Consortium for Citizens with Disabilities as a major problem issue. And we also recognized last winter that a lot of people with traumatic brain injuries are under this situation and face this problem too. And that was brought up last winter when we had the public forum, or when the State Council on Disability had the public forum. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why we're here to speak to you here today, to let you know that we are initiating legislation once again to try to make this happen. We were well on our way last year to make this happen. And then of course the pandemic hit, and then everything was off the table. we are fortunate to bring back Senate File 984, which is a bill that was just introduced last Friday, and it does have a file number now in the Senate. Senator Matthews, who carried the legislation last year, has offered to author the bill this year along with Carla Nelson out of Rochester. And we do have other additional senators who have indicated support for this legislation. It does have both Republican and Democratic help, so it does have bipartisan support. And this would basically allow personal care assistants to drive their clients if the clients wish to do so. We want to stress that this is voluntary. It's not mandatory. We don't want to force a PCA to drive if they're not comfortable in driving a van, let's say. We do not want to force a provider if they're not comfortable in allowing their client or their PCA to drive on their behalf. We want to make it voluntary. And so this is a may rather than a must. And what we're trying to do is free up transportation that might be necessary for other people in order for people to use their own vehicles. Like I have a lift equipped vehicle in my garage, but I can no longer drive. I've gotten to the point where I'm no longer safe to drive myself on the roads. So I have somebody drive on my behalf. And in order for me to get from here to St. Paul, it would be very difficult for me to use the bus system or to use, especially in a day like today, or to use Metromobility, or in Lisa's case, if I lived out in the middle of the country and they had very limited transportation services or very costly transportation services. So this is a very cost-effective, efficient way, and it is allowed by the federal government to do this. So we're asking people to support this piece of legislation as it moves through. Representative Frederick in the House has offered to author the bill in the House. And by the end of this week, we should know where that's going to, what bill number that will be in the House. We have requested a hearing in Senator Abler's committee, and he's indicated that he's willing to hear the bill again. And we've requested a hearing in the House by Representative Schultz, and she has indicated that she's willing to hear the bill as well. And I know Jeff has a flyer that he's willing to give to everybody. And we do have support from all kinds of organizations on this piece of legislation. So when a client goes to be assessed for the amount of hours of care that they receive in the home, they do not count instrumental activities of daily living. So this would not increase a person's hours of service authorized. But what it does do is it would, any hours that are authorized but are not actually used